Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Unlocking the Paradigm Portal. My name is Sarah. So, continuing the week of discussions about relationships, I'm going to just go full sledgehammer right now and we're going to tackle red flags. So, the first time that it happened, you saw it. You can try to deny it, but you saw it. And maybe you called it something else. Maybe you felt they were having a bad day or a rough patch, or that's just how they are when they're stressed. Maybe you took it as something that you had done. And maybe you filed it under everyone has stuff, or I don't want to be judgmental, or it wasn't that bad. But you saw it. So Monday, we talked about the common denominator, about the pattern that lives in you, not in them. And today, we're going to go one layer deeper because here's the part of that conversation we didn't finish. The pattern doesn't just live in who you choose. It lives in what you choose to see and what you choose to unsee once you've seen it. Where have you thrown your blinders on and pretended problems are not there? And that is a different kind of reckoning entirely. So let's be precise about what a red flag actually is, because I think we've gotten kind of sloppy with the term. A red flag is not a personality difference. It's not someone who loads the dishwasher wrong or has a different communication style or needs more alone time than you. Those are incompatibilities. Those are things you navigate or you don't. A red flag is a signal, a clear, observable, behavioral signal that something in this person or this dynamic is going to cost you. It'll cost you your peace, your sense of self, your safety, your ability to trust. It's not a vibe. It's not a feeling you can't explain. It's something you witnessed, something they did or said or revealed, and some part of you registered it as information, and then you stayed anyway. Now, here's where I'm going to push you and pull out my sledgehammer, and I need you to stay with me because this is where most people get defensive. Staying wasn't something that happened to you, and I know that's uncomfortable. And I know there are 100 reasons that feel completely legitimate. You loved them. You'd already invested so much. You didn't want to start over. You thought it would get better, and maybe it did for a while. I know. All of that is real. And you made a choice repeatedly. Not because you're stupid and not because you're weak, and not because love made you blind, though love will absolutely blur some edges. You stayed because some part of you decided that what you saw was either tolerable, fixable, or less dangerous than leaving. And that is a calculation, a subconscious one in most cases, but a calculation still. And the most important question isn't why you stayed. The most important question is, what were you willing to unsee in order to stay? What were you willing to throw blinders on rather than look at it? You cannot change what you refuse to see, and you cannot move forward until you're honest about what you chose not to see. So here's what I want to offer you, and this is the part that changes everything if you let it sink in. The fact that you stayed doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. And it also makes you someone who is operating from a wound, not from a clear-eyed choice. Because here's what red flags actually are. When you strip away the judgment and look at the mechanics of it, they are your nervous system speaking. They are your body registering something that your mind immediately got to work explaining away. That feeling of tightness in your chest the first time they snapped at you in public or said something that was cutting, or the way your stomach dropped when they went quiet for 3 days without explanation, or the moment you caught yourself adjusting your behavior so they wouldn't get upset before they'd even shown you they'd get upset. That's walking on eggshells. And you noticed that, right? You were already managing them before they asked you to. That's your system. That's your body saying, pay attention. This is information. And somewhere between that first signal and 6 months later, you learn to mute it. Not because you're broken, but because you were trained by old experiences, by old wounds, by the very attachment patterns we talked about Monday, trained to distrust the signal, to tell yourself the feeling was the problem, not what triggered it. And this is why the work isn't just trust your gut. The gut isn't always reliable when the gut has been living in a dysregulated nervous system for 10 years, 20 years, 30, 40, 50. The work is learning to tell the difference between fear of vulnerability and an actual warning. between discomfort that asks you to grow and discomfort that asks you to leave. And that distinction, that is the work of a lifetime. And it starts with being honest about the times you got it wrong, not to punish yourself, but to sharpen the instrument that is your intuition. The red flag wasn't the problem. Deciding your explanation was more trustworthy than your signal, that's where it started. So I want to say one more thing before we get to your stone for today. And this one is going to sting a little, so try to stay with me. Sometimes you didn't just ignore the red flag. I know that's hard to hear, but you know it. Sometimes you didn't. Sometimes maybe you argued other people out of seeing it too. Like you gaslit yourself and then tried to gaslight those around you. Maybe your best friend raised an eyebrow. Maybe your sister asked a question that made you uncomfortable. Someone maybe who loved you said, I don't know, something feels off, or asked you directly, are you sure about this? And you defended them. You defended the situation. You defended the story that you told yourself. You built the case. You gave the context, the backstory, the mitigating circumstances. You explained why what looked like a problem wasn't actually a problem if you understood them the way that you do. And in doing that, you didn't just override your own knowing. You outsourced your certainty to other people and then systematically dismantled it. That's not a character flaw. That's what humans do when they're attached to an outcome, when leaving feels more dangerous than staying, when the cognitive dissonance of, I love this person and this person is not good for me, is too painful to hold. So one of those truths has to go. And the one that usually goes is the inconvenient, uncomfortable, and challenging one. So here's the reframe, and this is real. This isn't just a pivot to make you feel better. Every single time you overrode a signal and it cost you, you were gathering data about yourself, about what you're willing to accept, about what your system is calibrated to call normal, about what your system is calibrated to call love. That data is not wasted. That data is the foundation of every change you're capable of making from here. You are not behind and you are not broken. You are not someone who can't be trusted with their own heart. You are someone who is finally asking the right questions. The signal was never wrong. You just hadn't learned yet how to listen without flinching. So your Wednesday stone, the one thing that I'm going to suggest you do to move toward becoming the person that you choose, I want you to think about one red flag from any relationship, past or present, that you explained away. It doesn't have to be the biggest one. It doesn't have to be the most painful one. Just one thing, one that you can see clearly now in hindsight. What is the red flag that you ignored? And I want you to write it down or say it out loud if you're in your car right now. I want you to look at it with 2 steps. First, what you actually saw. We're going scientific research here. The observable behavior, the specific moment, the thing that your body registered before your mind got involved. And second, the explanation you gave yourself to make it okay. How did you whitewash it? How did you make sense of it? What is the story you were telling yourself? That's it. You're not overanalyzing it. You're not even analyzing it. You're not processing the whole relationship. You're just putting those 2 things side by side, the signal and the story. Because when you can see the gap between those 2 things clearly, when you can see exactly how much interpretive work you were doing to keep yourself in a situation your body was already flagging, that gap becomes impossible to unsee next time. And that's the whole point. It's not about punishment. It's pattern recognition. You can't use information you won't look at. The signal and the story you told instead. Name both. So come back Friday. Come back and join me early Friday morning. We're going to talk about what happens when you actually do the work before it breaks instead of after. And that conversation is going to ask you something harder than anything we've covered this week. So show up for it. Let's go. It's go time. Happy Wednesday. I will be back Friday.